today we start from the digital space. Now, in 2025, Nigeria's digital economy grew at a remarkable speed. Cybercrimes kept pace. Now, organizations across sectors dealt with a noticeable increase in attacks, ranging from AI-powered scams to ransomware incidents to identity fraud affecting everyday users. Over the course of the year, a clear pattern emerged. Now, attackers were becoming more sophisticated and faster moving, while regulators were signaling that leniency was coming to an end. The introduction of the Nigeria Data Protection Act General Application Implementation Directives reflects this shift, moving from conversation and from intention and awareness to accountability and enforcement. Now, looking ahead in 2026, these pressures are unlikely to ease. Cyber criminals are expected to rely more heavily on automated and AI-driven tools, while regulators place greater emphasis on enforcement rather than guardians. Yes, that is it. Let's start our week this afternoon as we'll be talking to Africa cybersecurity leader with Deloitte, Mr. Tope Aladenusi. He's live in the studio to start this conversation with us this week. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming to our studio, Mr. Aladenusi. It's really good to see you.
Good afternoon, Tolu. Good to see you too.
Thank you so very much.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I really looked at this report and I must say a lot of work was put into this. I must say, I think I should allow you take us through a review of what we saw in 2025. We saw that growth, like you said, remarkable speed, but cybercrime also kept pace. Tell us more about this.
Cybercrime is keeping pace, or even right now, I would say it's overtaking.
Wow.
The growth of the digital economy, and I think the reason is simply because Nigeria is now a digital economy.
It is,
and in a digital economy, what we trade is trust, and because of the fact that the currency that we trade with is trust, cyber criminals are taking advantage of this trust factor, and having a situation whereby they are attacking several organizations because it's kind of like it's easier. It's unlike those days where you want to go and steal from a bank. You need to go get a machinery, get it's like a gun, a bullion van, and go through some very difficult means. But right now, you just sit down in your home, sit down on a table, on the desk, sit down with the desk, and all you need is just an internet access.
Yeah.
And with internet access, you can begin to have access to various organizations anywhere in the world. So that is what is making cybercrime, to increase. First of all, we are doing this digitally more, and the entry barrier is so low. It's so easy to get into it, and so we are seeing a very sharp rise in the fact that the tools are available. And then the money is there in the wires. So just all you need to do is to tap into it, and you can make a lot of money.
Indeed, I thought about that. We have more payment activities. We have online services, and all of this opens up so very well into the internet. Let me ask a layman's question. How prepared are we to manage the fallout of all of this?
I would say we are not as prepared, because technology, or let me say cyber attack, is growing at the pace of AI, whereas companies are growing at the pace of regulation. So they're trying to do the minimum. If regulations say, let's do this, they try to make the minimum. But the attackers are not looking at the minimum. They are using the best tools, to try to attack systems. We talked about the state of payments. Right now, Nigeria is among the top 10 countries in the world when it comes to volume of payments. But when it comes to cybersecurity maturity, we usually rank between 60 to 80 in the world. So we're like number 6 in the world in the volume of payments, but we're between 60 to 80 in terms of cybersecurity maturity. And that gap is what the attackers are exploiting. In summary, the pace at which we are growing in the digital economy, we're not growing at the same pace as far as cybersecurity is concerned, and that is where the attackers are taking advantage of.
Now, again, in that report, we see that hybrid defense models will be a standard for security operations and, of course, center effectiveness as we move on. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, so what we are seeing is that the attackers are using AI to attack. So what took them several months or years in the past to develop, they are doing it now within hours. The same way, the defense must also upskill to that level. We cannot continue to defend our systems like we did in the previous years. We need to ensure that there is a good combination of human and AI working together. Now, look at this year, for instance. In the last 1 month, we have seen attacks in Nigeria like we have never seen before in all these years, what we have seen in the last 1 month. And many of these attacks, they appear very coordinated. And you would know that someone is using an AI tool. So in the past, where you probably need to take your time to set up your systems to attack one system or attack one company, now you can, with AI, you can distribute the attack to several companies in several industries all at the same time. And because of that speed and scale, the defense also need to match up to that level, whereby we begin to work together using AI combination with humans to defend our systems against cyber attacks.
That indeed is a very, very good one. But let's talk about data protection, because I'm also clearly interested in that. Do you think that enforcement will accelerate as we move on in 2026, considering the fallout of all of this you've mentioned?
Yes, we are beginning to see enforcement accelerate. I think the Nigerian Data Protection Commission, they are making very good progress. First of all, they started by ensuring that we have a regulation. So when in the Committee of Nations, at least Nigeria is one of the countries that have got a regulation. Right now, they started moving to enforcement. And there was some very high-profile attack that happened this month. And they've issued statements that they are reviewing and they are investigating. And we've seen instances where they penalize organizations for not, complying with the regulations. And they have the capacity, based on the law, to penalize companies up to 2% of their annual revenue. So we're seeing progress in this regard. But the clamor in the business was that we want more, because we want them to move from just talking about it and saying we are doing something about it to actually holding companies responsible for not, protecting their data in an appropriate manner. And we've seen some movement in this regard, but there's still much more that needs to be done.
Much more that needs to be done. And we're not talking about the agentic AI, ambivalent tool. I also read about that, and that does a lot of special task, not even the regular AI thing that just come to, to support specific tasks. Tell us about this. And also, we are yet to address we're not talking about agentic AI. Tell us more about this. And of course, I again would ask you, are we prepared to manage the fallout of all of these developments?
Yeah, very good question, because I think in the last 1 year, what we have seen, both from an attack side and from a security side, is amazing. If you use AI, you'll be amazed how fast AI gets things done, how easy it gets things done. And that is for our day-to-day work. And the same way you see it, for instance, just putting it on, asking one of these AI tools questions, you see the speed with which they bring all the data for you. The same way we are seeing that speed is the same way we are seeing it in cyber attacks. So there is let me give you a very simple example. Right now we have agentic AIs that, in terms of attack, that what we call deepfakes, whereby the attackers will mimic anybody. They can mimic you, for example, and they will have a video out there that reads the news, and when we look at it, we'll think it is Tolu that is speaking. So they're able to mimic that, and people are seeing all sorts of things online. They are able to tell which is real, which is fake. So agentic AI, as far as attack is concerned, can do almost anything. And so what we are seeing is that from a defense point of view, we also need to start thinking in that direction, so that the systems on their own, they can even detect something that appears new. it's one thing to detect an attack that has a known pattern, but it's another thing to detect something that is coming for the first time you have not seen, whereby the system knows with the AI intelligence that this thing is, even though it's not a regular pattern and it's not something I've seen before, but it's an attack. So we need to begin to upgrade our systems to that level of thinking, in quotes.
Again, to regulators, because I know that we have agencies that are meant to regulate all of this. The argument is sometimes many say they are more of being reactive than being proactive in all of this. So considering where we are, how well we are trying to adopt technology in Nigeria at this time, would you say these agencies are doing pretty better? Can they still do more?
If you look at what I mentioned earlier,
yes, please.
According to the Global Cybersecurity Index by the ITU, our maturity in Nigeria was ranked mid-tier, which is about, like I was saying, we range between 60 to 80. Now, one of the reasons why we have that maturity level is because of our regulation. From the reports, we have policies, we have the right framework, but in terms of the execution, in terms of enforcement, in terms of coordination, those things are uneven. It can be better. And that's what we are expecting our regulators to do. We are seeing some regulators that are doing well, like the Central Bank of Nigeria, the National Data Protection Commission. They are making some good progress. However, there are some other industries like the insurance, like oil and gas, so hospitality. Many of them are not doing, they're not doing so much in that industry. There are practically, no regulations at all, or very little regulations, or that enforcement within that space. And that's what we are clamoring for, in this space, that this cyber attack is not something we should limit to only a few industries. It currently affects everyone. We are seeing instances right now where people or where attackers break into systems and harvest, the Nigerians' BVN, username, password, and everything. And they start calling people, and they get it from all these industries that are doing business, with this data. So we need to start looking at the ecosystem. So it's not enough for bank A to be fine. It's not enough for a telecom B to be okay. But the thing is that we all are connected. So it's not about taking care of my system. We need to take care of the ecosystem. Because if the ecosystem goes down, we all go down. And the ecosystem is part of our critical national infrastructure, which we have to protect. So as far as regulation is concerned, back to your question, I think we've done some good things, but there's still much more to be done.
Much more. There's always more to be done. Again, I'm going to another zero trust and identity-focused defense. I think you've touched on defense and all, but identity-focused defense is the word in asterisk in here now, will increasingly become the new baseline. Can you also put us through with this?
Okay, that's when we look at the pattern of attacks.
Okay, that you've seen during the time,
over time with research. About 90% of them are connected to identities. What's an identity? Your username and your password, your tokens, your PIN, what you use to log into systems. So if you look at most attacks, about 90% of them are connected to identities. Therefore, if you want to strengthen security, you need to strengthen identities. You need to, the way you manage identities, you need to look into it. And in the past, what cyber security professionals did was to operate based on the principle of trust but verify, which means that, for instance, if you are a staff of TVC, we can trust you that you are a staff of TVC, and then we give you some level of access or some level of control, and we trust you that, there are some things you should ordinarily not do because you are a staff, trying to make it as simple as possible.
Yes, please.
But now we are moving to what we call zero trust, whereby we don't trust anybody. We don't even trust our staff. We assume everybody will be attacked, and everybody's identity can be used to attack us. And so the system is designed not to trust anybody, not to trust any system. So there is that shift from that trust but verify model to a zero trust model. And that is one of the things that we are expecting to come to happen in this year and the years beyond.
Indeed, when we're talking about AI again, off camera, we're talking about TVC, and I told you that we have AI anchors. We are the first to do that in Nigeria, at least as of today. So, but you know, when you look at all of this, you also think of the challenges, because you have to be sure that you're giving real news, nobody is being cloned, and all of these things that we see. As we move on, cyber criminals are also dependent and relying heavily on automation and AI-driven tools. So how do we manage all of this moving forward?
Very good question. Let me use TVC as an example. Is for us to everybody to understand their risk. Every company faces different risks.
Okay.
When it comes to cyber attack, there are two types of companies: those that have been attacked and those that will be attacked. And those that have been attacked will be attacked again. So we all need to go back and look at what are the risks that I face. You probably will not know, but you just gave a classical risk assessment of what TVC should do. Wow. Somebody can impersonate you. Somebody can take control of your system. Somebody can lock your entire system. You can't send emails. You cannot produce to your viewers. So what do we do to ensure that does not happen to us?
Yes.
Then a bank, what are my risks? I move money around. What do I do to ensure that nothing happens to that? Then we go to oil company. The systems, the SCADA systems that moves the oil through the pipes. Those are technology. What do I do that someone doesn't take control of that? Because if they take control of that, I can't have my revenue. So the point I'm trying to make is that every company is exposed to some level of risk as far as cyber is concerned. So you need to know your risk. You need to understand your risks, then come up with a strategy to address those risks, to manage those risks. And the strategy will include, how do you have the best preventive system to make it very difficult for the attackers to penetrate you? Then secondly, you will then assume that even though you have the best of system, they will still penetrate you, because no system is 100% secure.
Safe.
So you are saying, when they come in and they penetrate me, how do I detect it? I
have one more question for you before we wrap this up, but we have live pictures also from Ekiti State 2026 Ekiti State governorship poll, the flag off of campaign for Governor Yebanji's re-election. Yes, that will be on TVC News. Business Nigeria continues on all other platforms. Yes, those are live pictures from Ekiti. All right, thank you so much for staying with us. Now, finally, we know we've talked about regulators, we've talked about the shift of our regulators from conversation to enforcement and all of that. I'm just thinking about government systems as we move towards the 2027 election. That is also something that we should talk about. Yeah. We've been talking about how we would upload results, all of these challenges back and forth. It still has to do with tech and all. So can you tell us how worried or what are your concerns with regards to the risk ahead of the 2027 election? Government systems now.
Okay, so one of the privileges that we have in Deloitte is that we have been number one in security for the past 14 consecutive years globally. And by virtue of our scale and size, we do a lot of research, and we're able to see what the attackers are doing. So there is a place they go to have conversation. It's called the dark web. So we see what they're doing. Right now, if you go there, you notice that many government systems are already being attacked as we speak. There has been an increase in the attack of government systems. And from historical patterns, we've noticed that once elections are coming, closer, this attack also increases because people want to attack government for a cause. Some people want to just test the systems we use for election. Some they are activists, they want to prove a point. So we're going to be seeing more of those things happening as election approaches. And we have noticed that in the past elections, and that's why we put an advisory out there to get the government prepared for what is ahead, because this is a pattern we've seen in the past and definitely is going to happen again.
Interesting stuff. I must say it's been an interesting conversation with you. But again, let me ask you your general outlook, even for Nigeria, our level of adoption and all. I think we are better than we used to be.
Yeah, we're better than we used to be. We are growing. We've made some good progress in the Committee of Nations in Africa. We are not at the bottom. We are not at the very top, but we are somewhere, above average. But if you look at the way we are adopting technology, the pace we are going, it shows we need to do more. Otherwise, it's going to affect everything. And like I said earlier on, in the digital economy, trust is the major currency.
It is.
And once trust depreciates, it's like the currency devaluing. It's like right now, Naira devalues to 4,000 Naira to $1. Nobody wants to do business with Naira or with Nigeria. The same way, when trust is devalued in this digital economy, it affects foreign investment, it affects cost of doing business, it affects almost everything that happens to us on a day-to-day basis.
African cybersecurity leader at Deloitte, Mr. Tope Aladenusi. Thank you so much. It's your first time on the show. We appreciate this. Thank you so much for coming through. Yeah, thank you very much. Interesting conversation. I must say, we've been talking so much about cyber attacks, report by Deloitte, and of course, what we should expect moving on in 2026.